Raaz got no review. Times of India said, rating not applicable, give me 0 stars. And me and Bobby are very good friends, Bobby Deol. He still curses me though, because I remember once Anil Kapoor met me and says, यार मेरा तो ये फायदा है कि मैं खुद की dubbing कर लेता हूँ. See, I've always suffered from depression. You're not supposed to talk about mental health, but I think that one of the first persons to come out and talk about this was Deepika Padukone. Today, the actors come and get down and go straight into the van. फिर वो असिस्टेंट आके बोलता है वो आ गए हैं, फिर सीन बेचते हैं, फिर उनके मैनेजर आके बोलते हैं ये डायलॉग का क्या करना है, तो मेरे जैसा डायरेक्टर तो बोलता है करना है.
In the last 1.5 years, the highest grossing film has been a genre of horror. Early in the 80s and the early 90s, the genre was borderline considered as not so A grade. Families wouldn't go for horror films, majorly dominated by the Ramses. But in the early 2000s, there came one film that got the families and the so-called multiplex audiences, the regular grade audiences, the general commercial audiences into the cinema for that genre. Ask anybody, they'll just name that one film. That was Raaz. And after that, there was no looking back. With 1920, I'm sure you would have already guessed who our guest tonight is, but it's not just about horror. This man also gave Amir Khan Ghulam. He also does a Awara Paagal Deewana. He also does something as intense as Kasoor and Inteha. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, Mr. Vikram Bhatt. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for your introduction.
So, and I really mean what I said. I think you got addicted, if that's the right word, or enamored by horror while making it. Because if we look at your filmography, you've done different. Fareb was a very different kind of genre. And you've written films like Dastak. There's obviously element of whether unfinished love, longing, but once Raaz happened and Raaz ke baad bhi there were a lot of films you made which were not horror, but then the kind of experiment you did, if I am not wrong, Haunted 3D was the first film to be shot in stereoscopic 3D, right?
3D, yeah.
So where did this fascination came in? Was it before, or you, as I said, fell in love during the process?
Not really, actually, because I remember in my younger days, when my cousins used to come over, or my friends used to come over, I used to regale them with ghost stories. I have always been, kind of very interested in the occult and the supernatural, the paranormal, but really never thought of making a film on that. But then, when you are a storyteller, and sooner or later, it's not possible to keep your favorite stories down, So horror was something that I was always keen on.
You mentioned your childhood, sir, and we know that your father is a profound cinematographer. How was जैसे घर का माहौल होता है बचपन में, how was it? How was it filled with stories of the film set? Was it about conversations around the films that also kind of told you subconsciously where you need to go? या जैसे बहुत घरों में होता है, when a lot of people work on film sets, that तू पढ़ाई पे ध्यान दे, ये सब नहीं है तेरे लिए. How was it?
Actually, it's not my father. It begins with my grandfather. His name is Vijay Bhatt, and he made Baiju Bawra and Himalay Ki Good Mein, Haryali Aur Rasta. So he was a very successful producer-director. Then my father, who's done more than 100 films as a DOP.
What a filmography he has.
Yeah. Enviable.
Absolutely.
And then it comes to me.
Gee.
So, I wanted to be a director when I was 7 years old. And nobody was even surprised with the kind of atmosphere in the house. And one was talking about hits and flops and analyzing films at the dining table and figuring it out. But my childhood was also a difficult one. I'm a product of a Gujarati joint family. And like in all joint families, somewhere things don't go well. And then there is a separation. When I look back at it, I realize that, there are no rights and wrongs. And one thing I figured out from my childhood is that it's possible for two good people not to get along.
Absolutely.
And that takes a lifetime to understand.
But so back in the day, this wasn't the difference between today and that time was today. I think it's more acceptable and okay to talk about it. But back in a day, this always existed. Well, it is whether it is separation or whether it is something or two people not getting along. Was it more difficult at that time because you couldn't really talk about it even to a lot of your friends because of the fear of judgment or it wasn't so acceptable by society? या आपके हिसाब से ज़्यादा नहीं फर्क पड़ा है?
Oddly, even when I was a child, I used to make stories in my mind. And when you make a story, and you must try this sometime, or I would urge the viewers to try this sometime. Take your story and start writing it objectively, like you are not a character in it. Try and write it as if all the characters are your characters. And when you do that, you suddenly realize, what if the enemy is right?
Wow.
Because then you're looking at everyone with a fair eye.
True.
You are giving a cause and effect to every character. So
That's a beautiful filter for a lot of people who want to not just write but even look at a film and then analyze later.
yeah, because when you write your own story without the burden of your victimization and the burden of your untruths, it becomes a process by which you are also liberated and you understand things for what they are. You might not understand them completely, but one thing you would understand is that it takes two rights to make a conflict.
Wow. Very, very well said, sir. It's not minus minus plus. It's actually it takes two pluses.
It takes two. If I don't believe in my point of view as strongly as you don't believe, there cannot be a conflict. We have to both believe we are right. Then we can have a conflict.
Which is so basic and true.
Yeah, it's very basic.
Now that you say put it this way, it is so basic and so true.
Yeah, it's not possible. So that's why whenever I write a villain, I always say that the villain is the hero in his own story.
You thought about Ronnie the same way when he is that boxing king in Ghulam?
He says, बहुत घिस के पहुंचा हूं मैं यहाँ.
Right, he says that.
That was the best line for me because he says, I don't want to lose it.
So true.
These people are making me want to lose it. And he's a local thug. It's not like he's an underworld don or something of that sort. He's local. So, if you see Malini of Raaz,
Yes.
she has her own point of view. She loves obsessively. If you see Kasoor. So, I think if you don't have a villain who has his own story, then you don't have a good enough villain.
True. Whether you're so right. And now, when you mentioned the three films you did, we discussed Ghulam, Kasoor, and Raaz. What brilliant casting, sir. I mean, you didn't run to just कि अगर Mogambo है तो अमरीश पुरी होना चाहिए. But Sharat Saxena at that point in time to have him as Ronnie.
Yeah.
And and Malini was so beautiful. I'm forgetting her name right now.
Malini Agarwal. Her name is
Her
Malini.
real name is
Yeah.
Malini.
So I saw her in a
Beautiful.
video, a music video she had done in Venice, if I'm not mistaken. At the time, there used to be this channel called Before You.
Before You and Channel V were the two where all your videos
Yeah.
used to.
So all these songs used to come in
Ji.
early in the morning.
Ji. Milan Soman. and all
Yeah.
those people were there.
Yes. So I saw her in this song and I said, this girl is the girl I want. I didn't know her name. I didn't know where she's from. But I was like, this is the girl for Raaz.
So brilliantly casted, like right from the eyes to, and you've taken close-ups. It's not that it's just the long shot, and it's not just the beauty. You've taken close-ups where it's just the eyes
Yeah.
and the longing. Very, very beautifully done. I'm urging to ask you this now that we are talking on this, and we'll come back to thing. Do you have a flair for dubs? Because I haven't seen any other director dubbing for his leads in so many films,
Yeah, I get that a lot.
including the Creature for Creature 3 in 3D.
Did I?
Yes, I think I read that in
No,
Creature
no.
3D for the Creature, the
No,
sound
no.
of Creature.
No, no, no.
Then for Aftab, you've dubbed.
So actually, what happened is that it's not that I wanted to. So in Kasoor, Aftab was just raw from a film called Mast.
Right, right.
Just a young boy who was playing this Shekhar Saxena, who was like
Mature
mature businessman, has to be 30. So he looked it, but didn't sound it. Because he had a kind of a
Boyish.
youngish, boyish voice. And we did try a couple of dubbing artists. And then, dubbing artists, nothing against them, but they dub like dubbing artists. तो वो लोग ऐसा डबिंग करते हैं जहाँ पे कैरेक्टर का कोई अता पता नहीं होता, लेकिन उनकी आवाज़ में पर्सनालिटी ऐसे तो नहीं कर सकते यार.
Correct.
ऐसा चलना यार, मैं ट्राई करता हूँ. And when I was very little, I was like 6 or 7, I used to dub for my uncle's Gujarati films.
Oh, really?
Yeah. These child actors and all that. So I used to enjoy it. I used to get chocolates for it. So I said, "Chal, let me try." Turned out pretty good. So then I called boss, Bhatt साहब, and I said, आप भी एक बार देख लो, क्योंकि ऐसा नहीं है कि मुझे ही अच्छा लग रहा है. And तो he came, he heard it. He said, नहीं बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है. You go on. तो वो हुआ. फिर it's just destiny that Dino couldn't speak the language properly at that time. He was not very well versed with Hindi. So I ended up dubbing for him.
Same happened with Imin Footpath.
Imi couldn't grasp the concept of dubbing.
Oh.
So he was like, I'll screw this up.
Your all three reasons are so very different. It's not that just one didn't have the language, one was not
exactly.
into the
So
dubbing.
Imran said, yaar, tu hi kar le yaar. Mere se nahi hota ye. Because it's an art form. You have to get used to it. So I said, ठीक है, कर लेता हूँ मैं. So I remember once Anil Kapoor met me and says, यार, after Ghulam, and he said, यार, मेरा तो ये फायदा है कि मैं खुद की डबिंग कर लेता हूँ.
Anil sir.
So I said, जी सर, आप तो कर ही लेते हैं.
So school life and college life, school, again, was it because you were kind of clear since you're 7-8 years old that you wanted to be a filmmaker? Were studies something that you wanted to pursue, or it was happening because you had to, up to the level that you did?
My mom was very keen that I graduate. My father didn't care much. Though I had started assisting Mukul Anand when I was in the 9th standard, 82. So that's 44 years almost. So yeah, it's been 44 years for me as an assistant.
Which film was that, sir?
Kaanoon Kya Karega. It was Suresh Oberoi and Deepti Naval and Danny
Actors.
Zongpa was the...
Was that your first experience on a film set?
Oh, no. I've spent my life on a film set.
Your childhood, like since you were 4-5 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean...
Working maybe?
Not working.
Okay.
But I used to be with my father, and Bhatt Saab and Pooja and I have grown up on the sets. So that's where we became the best of friends. So then from there, it was natural. I got decent grades to get myself into A&M College of Commerce, which was a tough one. I don't know how I got in. I've never been a brilliant student. I was
Above average.
average to above average. Nothing to write home. And then I remember this one class because I was working and I attended the class 1 month late in FYBCom. And it's the only 45 minutes of my life where I didn't understand anything. It was economics, and I have no clue what he was talking about. The graph was going here, there, under here. And I'm saying to myself, Beta, tu to gaya. It was like watching TV in Chinese.
Yeah, without subtitles.
Without subtitles. I was like, what the F is going on? And I told my dad, now I can't tell my dad that, I can't understand economics. He would have said, take tuitions. So I was like, I want to go to film school. So he cracked up and he said, you don't want to study.
बहाने ढूंढ रहे हैं.
He says, you're assisting for 4 years. You spent your whole life on the set. And you're telling me you want to go to film school. What are you going to go there and learn? Because I used to maintain continuity as a kid. At the age of 16, I made my own editing machines. I made my own dubbing machines. He says, so after this, you're going to film school.
You'll have to unlearn everything.
You have to unlearn everything, or are you trying to go there and teach?
True.
So I said, Dad, I can't study here. He says, chhod de. My mom threw a fit. She cried and she bawled and she made a scene. So there was a compromise that was reached that I would...
Middle ground.
Yeah, the middle ground. And that was that I would study by correspondence. That ain't going to happen.
That even I think your dad knew. That's why
Yeah, he's saying why. And wahan, I don't know right now if that is still possible. But at that time, we used to get the correspondent papers in Sydenham. So we have to go to Sydenham and get those papers.
Oh, I think till the time I knew about it, now they come by post. You
अभी तो online होगा
सब
शायद.
online काफी सारी चीजें हो
वो
गई
time
हैं,
तो
so-
कुछ online जैसा था ही नहीं. So I went there. He says, why are you wasting my money? I said, you tell your wife.
Exactly.
Don't tell me. This is the shebang that we got to do. So he was like, oh, okay, go ahead. And me and Bobby were very good friends, Bobby Deol. So he drove me all the way there. He still curses me though, because I said, he said, kya main loon yaar? You have this option. So I said, computer science le. It's the future. वो बेचारा सिर्फ कंप्यूटर में ही फेल हुआ. वो आज तक गाली देता है मुझे. बोलते साले तेरी वजह से ना TYBCom पहुंच गया.
But computers.
कंप्यूटर में कुछ नहीं हुआ. But of course, he's the most educated. Also, I was a very sentimental, very emotional kid. And I had a few heartbreaks at that time.
That early?
That early. I think I was in a hurry to live life.
Or fall in love?
I don't know what it was. But I think it affected me deeply.
We're talking about
I was
age-wise.
16 to 18.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I think most of the heartbreaks that happen at that age. And sometimes they leave scars.
It's also the innocence and the purity at that time, which...
I think that's what it is. I mean, I'm happy you said this, and it's a really good observation. More than being scarred, it's the shattering of your innocence. You're never the same again. You will find it hard to love again.
And then it's depending on person to person.
My wife changed that, and with a lot of consistency and with a lot of doggedness, she made me see love again. And that is credit to her.
But it's been after how many years? I would say that...
I used to give her a very tough time. Because, when so this is a beautiful scene in a film I've seen where a young boy is in love with an older woman and he says to her, why are you not as crazy in love as I am, why are you so strong in love? And she says, because I have broken my heart once and I know that I will survive.
Wow. Wow.
The knowledge that you will survive doesn't allow you to fall in love in the same way.
As passionately, as deeply, or as unhinged as it was the first time.
And now I feel I won't survive after so many years. And that, I think, is the credit to true love.
Wow. And when you define it as true love, I truly feel it would be because it's not the first you've got and you feel this is true. After going through all that you've gone, both ways, both the partners would have, when you finally say out of all of that, this is what is true and has lasted, means you had enough compares, you had enough situations and reactions to live through to realize this is true.
Yeah, somewhere, in my life, I had made up my mind that I'm going to spend life alone. And, my life romantically is not going to amount to much. And I was so used to living alone that every time Shweta and I used to have a fight, I would go back to default mode. And she was like, this guy's a pain. I don't know why she hung around. But now she plays that game with me.
Oh, wow. Tables have
So
turned.
she's turned the tables on me. Yes, she has.
But it was your comfort zone when you used to be all alone, sir? I mean, it's not something that you used to feel you are doing to yourself or you're going through, because that was somewhere comfort to you?
See, I've always suffered from depression. As a matter of fact, the reason I did not want to have Shweta in my life is because I was like, why do you want to be with a depressed person? And she said, that's not your choice to make,
Wow.
which I agree. It's not my choice to make. And I have an autoimmune condition. It's called axial spondyloarthritis. So it is a kind of arthritis where the bones begin to fuse, which is, some say, because the body keeps a score.
Oh.
But the result is there's a lot of pain. And some days there's a bad flare up. So I was like, I'm this really broken piece. Unless you like antique pieces, there's no reason to be with me. So I suppose she's an antique collector because I'm quite a collector's piece.
It's a special handcrafted one, not your.
Oh, yes, of course. So broken from here, jagged from there, um, a black hole in the heart. But that's, I think, chemical. I mean, that's something that, you can't do much about.
But when you look back, sir, any regrets you feel that, this shouldn't have happened, or I would have been in a better headspace? If this chapter wouldn't have been there, or this person wouldn't have been there, anything like that? Or you think, like a lot of people say and believe, whatever I am is because of everything that's been broken and fixed?
I don't know what has fixed, actually. A lot of broken things around, but I don't know if it ever fixes. There is a line that says, I am a sum of my experiences. But I think the true thing is I am the sum of my failures. Because success doesn't teach you, failures do. Success just wants to make you repeat it.
So true. So true.
And that is failure. But without getting profound, the whole thing is that, one has to understand that you have to carry your failures with you and identify those failures not as you, but as an event in your life. Then you can learn.
Beautifully put, sir. I'm not even wanting to look at what I need to ask. I'm just loving the conversation that we are having, because honestly, I mean, you use the word depression, and there are a lot of reactions when it comes to when you use this word today. And there were very funny reactions when you would have used it 20 years back. They would like,
You're not supposed to talk.
correct.
You're not supposed to talk about mental health. But I think that one of the first persons to come out and talk about this was Deepika Padukone.
Right.
Samantha Prabhu has a condition called myositis, which is a very close one to what I suffer from. And she came out and she didn't. And I think it's very important for people to come out with their mental illnesses, because it gives a lot of strength to the youngsters, to people who are suffering from it and also keeping it quiet. When, big idols like Deepika Padukone and Samantha and all of them come out and talk about it, people are, they are energized, they are in a way encouraged to talk about their problems as well. And that would stop so many teenage suicides, teenage anxiety. I mean, I think the greatest illness in today's youth is anxiety. They're all so anxiety ridden.
Totally. And it would be of different graphs, degrees, but I think that is that one word, you agree or disagree, either is the problem or the crux and the core of the problem that
And I
sprouts
think
into other
social
things.
media
Yes.
is to blame.
Absolutely. That is the reason we are talking about the generation that's growing up on it. Obviously, as we all say, it has its pros and cons, but the anxiety of losing out on things.
Not only that, there's a lot of comparison.
Yes.
Oh God, look how thin she has become. Oh God, look how this. Oh, he's got a new car. And just constant comparison. We didn't have any social media. We could only compare to the gully boys. We couldn't compare ourselves to anything else. Maybe schoolmates. But that was about it. So, yeah.
So, now that you say this, I realize not just when the likes of Deepika and Samantha come out and talk, it's not just the people who are going through, but the others in the society who maybe look at it as it's okay, it's acceptable. As you rightly said, 20 years back, it wasn't even okay to discuss it, because you would feel the society, which has been ever existent, thinking that they are going to look down upon it as something which you can't have. Now, with these people talking about it, it's maybe more acceptable to at least be like, oh, okay, this is something which can happen. Because that's what heroes and heroines in our country do. कि अगर इनके साथ कुछ हुआ, इन्होंने कुछ किया, इनको भी हो सकता है, तो फिर हमें हो ही सकता है, हम तो आम आदमी, that's a very...
But I think it's more for the parents and the caregivers to understand the symptoms. Because, kids are not in a place to understand.
For sure.
15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, they don't know. But if your child is sleeping long hours, is lost interest in anything or everything, stops going out with friends, eats a lot or doesn't eat, these are signs. And I think it's important to educate the parents that look for these signs. Like you look for fever, you look for a stomach ache,
symptoms.
You look for symptoms, look for these symptoms, watch out for these symptoms. And I mean, I wish at some time I can do this campaign, because it's going to help.
Absolutely. And who better than somebody who's kind of gone through, so he can understand their POV also, because not just identifying the symptoms, but also dealing with them in a very humane and a very soft manner, and not just
And
react.
if I can lead a regular life despite all this, make films, have fun, then why can't everybody else?
Absolutely. Amazing, sir. So lovely to hear this. And I'm sure this is definitely going to help a lot of people out there just look at things the way they should be looked at.
Absolutely.
So, very quickly, we'll move on to a segment which basically means your firsts. What all firsts you've had in life. The first film set do you remember ever that you walked onto, no matter you were 3 years, 4 years, but the first film set? If there's
I
a memory.
remember.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I was on film sets before that, but this is the one I remember. So my father took me for a shooting to this studio called Rajkamal Studios in Parel. At that time, they had more floors. Now I don't think they have any floor, perhaps one. So I went into this studio with my father, and it was the exterior of a bungalow made inside the studio. And I was transported into another world. There were fake flowers made of paper, and there was a car that comes and stops, and a person goes in, and I was like, this is such a... I was like Alice in Wonderland. And
It's
it was
magic.
like, this is magical. And then my father made me sit in his lap. And in those days, there were not many ARRI cameras. There was a camera called Mitchell. And in that, there were two viewfinders. One, you could look through the eyepiece. And then there was also a kind of a square
Monitor? Not
monitor
really,
kind
but
of
okay,
thing. And so my father was operating from the monitor. And he said, you want to take the shot from the eyepiece? I didn't know he's watching from the monitor. So I said, yeah. So I saw, and for the first time in my life, I saw the film roll in front of the shutter. And I was never the same again.
Wow. It feels like the meeting of a hero and a heroine for the first time in a love story.
Yeah.
It just feels that.
Love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
Absolutely.
How beautiful is that? Do we remember the film by any chance? Which film set was this?
I'm not sure. Perhaps, if I'm not wrong, it was a film called Sauda, which was directed by Mr. Sudesh Isar, who was Puneet Isar's father.
Oh, okay.
And it had Sanjeev Kumar and Yogita Bali.
Wow. I think because of your father, you also got to see a lot of these legends in action on set.
Oh yeah, I've been very lucky. My only regret, and deep regret, is that I couldn't work with R.D. Burman. But otherwise, I have had the opportunity to work with the greats.
Wow. Observe them and
Learn from
learn
them.
from them. I think that's the best way to... What your father said when you said you want to go to a film school. I mean, nothing bigger than this. If you can, just be... I always feel like, I would love to be a fly on the wall and just observe when all
Exactly.
of them are at work.
There's a Chinese saying that walking 100 steps is far better than reading 100 books. When you walk 100 steps, you see so much more, and you learn to navigate it.
So true, sir. In fact, there was something, I mean, it's not a saying, but it just came out of a discussion. And I think that's something you'd love to discuss is, a lot of people say, learn from others' mistakes. And the discussion was, why should you learn from a mistake that somebody else has made? He did it because of the kind of personality, circumstance, and the backdrop he comes from. Maybe you wouldn't have the same kind of reaction to it. Maybe you wouldn't react to it, and it might not be a mistake if you do it. So make your own, just make sure you don't repeat them. Make your own and make your life based on the mistakes that you do. I mean, that's what you have been talking.
Yeah, I think so. That's try and make new mistakes.
And then make sure you don't repeat them.
But we are cursed to make the same ones.
The same ones.
People are patterns. We are all patterns.
And it stays true for both professional and personal. So I think
That's just the kind of people we are. We are patterns. And if we recognize that pattern and if we break it, then I think our soul mission would have been answered.
So true. You remember your absolute first salary, apart from the chocolates you got for the dubbing?
I was assisting a director by the name of Mr. Pawan Kaul because I wanted to learn video. And they were, Mr. Narihira of Stardust was making films on video. With Zarina Ji and Aditya Pancholi. There were films called Kalankatika and this and that.
Okay.
I don't know if you recollect. But they were just films for video.
Got it. Like you have the OTT originals now.
Yeah, correct. So I got paid 2,000 rupees for the entire film. And I think I spent more going to Mud Island than I was paid. But I learned a lot with with Pawanji. He taught me this whole high band, low band. At that time, Betacam was not out as yet. So, so I'd already learned the whole analog thing, but digital was coming in slowly. Though it was still linear,
Right.
but it was coming in.
Right. Wow. You remember your absolute first award?
My first award, I think, was no, I can't remember. It was possibly the Screen Award, but I don't remember for what.
I'll be very disappointed. Fareeb never won any awards, or it did?
I've never won any award. I've never got a good review.
How is that possible? Ghulam didn't get good reviews? Raaz?
Ghulam got 1.5 stars. Raaz got no review. Times of India said rating not applicable. Give me 0 stars
For Raaz.
for Raaz.
How do you deal with it? You have always been okay and unnerved with it, or it gets, because by now at least I can tell that it is, you are an emotional person, so things are not gonna go just pass by you. You
But
do
all
absorb.
my films that are, when we look back and say, oh, these were cult films, like 1920 or Raaz or Ghulam, they were all trashed by critics. The funny thing is that the same critics, when a sequel comes in or something like that, they say, oh, not as good as the original.
But you never said the original was good.
Yeah, you trashed the original though. So I realized that, you can't make films to make a small group of people happy. You have to pitch it to a larger audience.
You've proven
And that is
time and
business.
again. You've proved that time and again. So
And I used to be against critics at one point. But now I don't see them as them and us. I just see that they are also in a business. And it doesn't work out well for them to praise every other film. Because if they cannot have a critique in everything that is made, they would
not be that relevant.
they wouldn't be relevant.
A sad part of it is also, if you say something not so good about something, it just gets picked up more.
See, the thing is, there's only one complaint I have. Critique the film. Don't critique the person. Don't say he's a bad director. Say he's made a bad film.
There's a huge difference in both the statements there.
Yeah. So I get upset when, journalists write. Not for me. I don't get upset for myself anymore. But for younger directors, because I know they are vulnerable. They are just starting out. And when I read a bad review about someone I don't even know, it doesn't fill me with any joy. It doesn't fill me with joy. It fills me with a sense of not even anger, sadness, that don't do that. He's just up and coming. You are just clipping his wings. He's learning to fly. Don't laugh at him.
And again, it's kind of basic, but yes, I as you said, I know where they come from. It is so sad. Even till yesterday, a film will come, and if the film is not good, genuinely not good, audiences have not liked it, the amount of articles and conversations about people saying how bad it is much more than a film that has been liked by everyone. People will stop having conversation ki ye to sabko achhi lagi hai, let's move on.
Yeah.
If we could have the same amount of conversation for the film that people have liked, maybe more people would be empowered, encouraged, inspired to do that kind of cinema.
A system. A social system. A construct, if you may, which is not deliberate, but which is human nature. And that is creating idols and breaking idols. You create a hero, and then when you cannot create him anymore, when he's reached his zenith, then you want to see him fall. because then that's entertainment. Like Amitabh Bachchan sir's magazine cover that said finished. And he's still out there proving he's far from finished.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This answer I still know. I'm going to ask the question, but your first mentor in life?
It was Bhatt Sahab only.
I was expecting this, but since the beginning, it's been
Since the beginning. I was 4 years old.
You remember your first because it's also an extension of your family, but your first interaction or your meeting or your first impression of Bhatt Sahab, if you would have to describe.
I thought he was a very strange man.
I don't blame you for thinking
Yeah.
that in the first instance, yes.
And then I remember him throwing his specs in anger, and his then assistant used to have an extra pair. And I said, this is a very strange man. Why does Pooja's father behave like this? And then one fine day I see him in saffron robes, because he had gone, Rajneesh, to the Osho ashram and become a devotee. And I was like, why is he dressed up? He's become a sadhu. He's a sadhu director. So I really blame him for confusing the hell out of a child. As I grew up, I understood more.
But interactions happened only at a later stage where you and him started talking, and not just work, but otherwise also, because he's somebody you can't restrict yourself from just talking work.
I started talking with him. I mean, I used to always talk film and all that, but I think I started talking life with him much later, because I don't think I was equipped. Because he's also had quite a tumultuous life, like yours sincerely, and I hadn't lived enough life to talk to him about it. I didn't have any questions. I was still in Wonderland. Then when life happened to me, then I started having those conversations with him.
Outstanding. And I think one's very lucky to have a mentor like him.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, he's been with me through what I call thick and thin and sick and sin. So he's been with me through all of it.
Remember your first friend, sir? Absolute first friend that you made?
Yeah, he's still my friend.
Wow.
My first friend is Manesh Patel. And I remember I used to call him Manish. And he used to say, it's not Manish, it's Manesh.
Okay.
It's not Man ka Ishwar, it's Man ki Ichha.
Oof.
I was like, okay, got that right. So it's Manesh and Mohit Malani. They are still my friends. Yeah.
And how long back does this friendship go, sir? You guys started?
4th, 5th standard. 45 years.
Amazing. So they've also seen your entire journey and ups and downs and in and out.
Oh yeah. We've done the whole dating routine and trying to get each other hooked and unhooked and
the after effects of that.
And the after effects and heartbreaks and heartmakes, and we've got it all.
Amazing. I think a story and a conversation like a group podcast need to happen with them and you together.
Oh, no way. A lot of it's going to come out then.
Your first ever script that you read or you held in your hand? Because I'm sure that time scripts weren't really
So, a boss had given me a book on the best American screenplays. And I went through all the screenplays. That was my first reading of.
What was your age at that point in time, sir?
I was, I think, 13.
You read that book when you were 13?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was mesmerized. All Quiet on the Western Front, Citizen Kane. I think West Side Story was also in it. But some great scripts.
Lovely. The next segment, very quickly, your favorites. If there is a film you need to pick, which is your all-time favorite film you revisit or just like to watch it even today, like your favorite film, if there is any?
1920.
Wow. The first one, I'll tell you, because you say that. I was in Baroda when I watched that film, and a theater packed with audiences. As I said that you've proved it always wrong that you don't make films for a set of audiences, but the audience.
Yeah.
When the climax comes, and when Rajneesh hugs and starts the Hanuman Chalisa, there was an uproar and an applause and everything that starts in the audiences when I saw it, because I remember, and I always had this mind of thinking how that's when I got recollected of his entry in the film also starts with Hanuman Chalisa, where he's getting, he comes out of it and he's doing the puja and everything.
And imagine, one of the critics said, why does it come twice in the film?
Okay. And still, while that happens, I was just waiting ki ab kya karega, and then the moment he starts to say that in the ears, there was an uproar in the audience. So they connected. I mean,
Yeah.
none of them questioned why it was twice. Your favorite book, sir, if you have to pick one?
My favorite book, I have a lot of them. Fountainhead, I think.
You have a favorite shoot location?
Ooty. I keep going back there for some reason.
You
I
shot
want to-
recently there?
But I want to go to Kashmir.
You've not shot in Kashmir
No.
ever?
I've shot in the substitutes.
But not really.
Switzerland
Yeah,
and Austria and Ooty.
Oh,
and-
you've never shot in Kashmir?
But I'm dying to shoot in Kashmir.
We're throwing it out in the universe. You have a favorite actor?
My all-time favorite is Amitabh Bachchan.
And you worked with him. You got a chance to direct him in
Got a chance. I did 4 films with him as an assistant. I'm still a fanboy.
If I'm not wrong, your father was a cinematographer on Agnipath?
Yeah. And Kalia.
Wow.
And Khuddar.
I mean, I don't know who to envy more. Your favorite musician? I think you kind of semi-answered.
R.D. Burman.
What do you think, if I know sometimes love doesn't need to have a reason, what made them who they were and who they are? I mean, there's no replacement, so...
Genius. It's genius. It's pure genius. You know, even if you tell the music directors today that... so I remember this incident really well. Mukesh Bhatt and I and a couple of other guys and a young guy was also around, and we were all drunk and going in a car. And we were playing music, and Mukesh ji said, "Yaar, Pancham is Pancham, yaar." So one of the kids said, "Who's Pancham?" So he told his driver, "Stop the car, throw him out."
Oh God.
So I think Panchamda has a very, very strong obsessive following.
It's obsessive. It's not even passionate. I agree. I completely agree. But that also makes me want to ask you very strongly, from Fareb till your very recent film released last year, which had a song called Wo Kahani. Irrespective of the genres, how have you maintained this quality of music, sir? I mean, there might be films which have not worked, but like the music of Inteha was amazing. The music of Ankahi.
Yeah.
Outstanding music. So is it like inherent? Is it the ear for
It's
music?
a simple thing. See, I don't think you should intellectualize music. When you're the director or the producer, listen to music as you would listen to it in your car. A lot of directors are not able to tell the music director, who is very senior or successful, that this song's crap. I don't like it. But you should have the strength to do that. Say it nicely. Say that this perhaps is not for my situation. Or this is not the song I want. You don't have to dislike it, but you have to ask for one more. Because, you see, music is one thing that your body reacts to.
So true. So true. Your senses, it's a lot more senses than just the film.
What is that reason that sometimes we get hooked on a song and listen to it on repeat? What is it in that song? Some emotional chord it has touched. Wait for that to happen when you listen to music. Don't be under pressure to like anything. Your body will tell you, this is nice. Wait for your body to tell you. That's all. It's so simple.
Now that we are talking even with Raaz reboot, Raaz Aankhein Teri. What a beautiful, like the overall medley is just so good. The overall is just so good. And it's been a constant with your films, with Vishesh films, because then when Mohit also did his films,
Mohit also has got a very good ear for me.
very good ear for music. So I always feel you need to have a streak to even like and your body to tell you it's good.
Yeah.
If you have to pick one album which that would be for you in your filmography, that this album of
Raaz.
even today stands tall.
Yeah.
I know the answer. You have your favorite producer.
Not really.
Oh, there's not a producer that you worked with till now you would want to go back and say, okay, let's do one more film.
It's the one producer I fight with the most, Firoz Nadiadwala.
I was about to tell you that. So,
Firoz Bhai and I still, when we meet,
Ji.
we meet very warmly.
Right.
We have fought a lot in the past. But he's a passionate filmmaker.
One film I can't imagine, like every director I generally feel has a autograph, like, that, okay, he makes these kind of films. I couldn't have imagined even today that Awara Paagal Deewana was you. So what, because we're talking about Firoz Bhai, how did that happen, sir?
Actually, Firoz Bhai and I were working on something else. Then he said, "Arey yaar, ye banate hain picture." Hera Pheri had become a hit in the meanwhile. And I think he had found a footing as a producer. Because I think he had lost money in Kartoos with the action film. And so I said, okay, let's do this. And then Neeraj came on board, the funniest man in the world. It's a shame he's not with us anymore. But Awara Paagal Deewana wouldn't be what it is without him. It's Neeraj.
How lovely of you to say that, because even Hera Pheri, he was involved. Second one, I know he directed, but the first one also.
I mean, we all have our inputs, and as a director,
of course.
I had my scenes, my favorite scenes that I tweaked, scenes that I did. But the spine of Awara Paagal Deewana is Neeraj.
And he's done that for a lot of films.
Yeah.
Deewana Hue Paagal also was.
Yes. Deewana. It's a tragic loss.
And also
people don't realize how big a loss.
And I've never been fortunate enough to even be with him in the same room. But I've heard he's also a great He was also a great human being. Apart from what
he was just, and his humor was not something that he had to work on. He was just that guy. He would just keep saying the funniest things, even otherwise. But he had a bad temper.
Really?
Yeah. Not on everybody else, but he used to get irritated. And I used to tell him, it's not good for your blood pressure. Don't do this. And before he passed away, actually, he had called me. And he said, I'm going to Delhi. I'll come back and meet you. I said, okay. The next thing I heard that he's in Delhi and he's had this stroke. It's very sad.
How was it like on the sets of Awara Paagal Deewana? Because it was after Hera Pheri. Again, going back to my viewing example, saw it in Baroda. I still don't know, seen it repeated number of times. What does Paresh ji's character say when he comes? I still remember his entry is with some clothes, asking the wife ki isko dhona hai ya press karun kya. Because the uproar in the audience on Paresh Rawal's entry, and I'm talking Gujarat, was mad.
Mad, yeah. That would be the case.
So while you guys were filming it, Hera Pheri had become what it became?
Yeah, it was a big hit by then.
Were there some tweaks to kind of make sure that, it was a more responsibility, I'll put it that way? That
Not really, because, we were just going with it. We were just going with the flow. We knew it was ridiculous. But then it was comedy,
But comedy also so well done. Like, I still remember the background when Akshay sir's car stops and He's Dangerous comes in.
That was something I got them to do.
Small things, but
He's dangerous.
It just comes out. It became what it became. Like, even today, the meme of Chal Coffee Peete Hain is something that's like the pop. Everybody would know about it. Chal Coffee Peete Hain.
Then we added it in the news clip. कि सबको कॉफी पीने के बहाने ले जाता है.
Yes.
It wasn't in the news clip.
Yes.
So that became his modus operandi.
But so good. Even the way you worked a bit on his look also. Like, he never had those long sideburns and all of
But a lot of that is Firoz also.
Oh, he has all those creative inputs.
Yeah. I mean, costumes and set design, and he's very creative. Um, so, going to Spain to do a song, and he likes it.
I mean, again, that film we can go on talking because that's exactly the era all us 90s kids were like, this is what we were enjoying the most. And even today, when they become those memes and everything, we've seen, like, I think I'm lucky to see the live reactions of the audiences when all of that was happening.
Oh, the first show, Firoz and I were so nervous because when we saw the film alone, nobody was laughing because obviously nobody was laughing. How much can you laugh? So we were like, is this going to work or not work? But the way people cracked up is not.
And you would be able to tell this to me. I don't remember for a while before Awara Paagal Deewana, the genre of action comedy
Yeah.
had kind of died down. Like Hera Fairy was comedy.
Yeah.
Awara Paagal Deewana kind of brought back that action comedy where Guru Gulab Khatri is who he is. But then Yeda Anna has his own style. Paresh Sir's character has his own. Manilal has his own style.
Everybody, yeah. वो
So-
चीज़ भूल जाता है ये परेश भाई का डायलॉग भी है मैं तो नाम भूलता हूँ ये तो कुछ भलता ही भूलता है
हाँ, ये तो केवल. Then you have Johnny Lever as Chota Chhatri. I mean, even today, these are. I mean, I'm literally telling you, as you said, there's a backstory to a villain as we started off. All your characters from Awara Pagal Deewana can have a backstory, whether it's
But
Chota
the
Chhatri.
backstory is that Neeraj and I used to, every day, we used to be like gathering rhymes for Chota Chhatri. Because Paresh Bhai has to forget his name and he has to say something to him. So कोई भी हमको चीज़ याद आई तो हम लोग लिख देते थे अरे यार ये काम में आएगी तो कभी ताड़पत्री कभी काजू कतरी so all different names for Chota Chhatri we had to
Crazy. And the way even Paresh sir used to deliver, the way even Aftab's reaction, every time he used to get scared and he used to go out and call the other person.
Yeah.
"Isne ye kiya." It just goes on. I mean, sir, hoping Firoz Bhai completes the Welcome to Jungle and the Hera Fairy bit, I think Awara Pagal Deewana has to be.
I think he's
the next
making
one.
it.
Yeah. That's what we heard, but I think he needs to get through the jungle and the Hera Fairy bit to get through this. But yeah, the characters, I mean, that's there. It's a different episode on Awara Pagal Deewana. Sorry. Very, very quickly towards the last segment, sir. Because you've been fortunate enough to be on sets 40 years back and now, what is the major shift or difference you see in the actors then and the actors now? Is there a difference or the craft has changed? I've got very interesting answers from all the directors I've spoken to, Bhatt Saab included. But what's your take then and now?
The vanity van.
I'm not kidding. This has been a common answer. Like, if there have been like, this is the 14th interview, 12 of them have mentioned. This is the first thing they have mentioned. Good or bad?
No. So I remember during Agnipath, when my assistants, whether it was Mithunda or Neelam or anybody, वैन तो सिर्फ अमित जी के पास था वो टाइम पे उनका खुद का था. They used to come first on the set. They used to greet the director, the DOP, the unit. Then they used to say, कितना टाइम है मेरे लिए, तैयार हो जाऊं, थोड़ा टाइम है. आजकल वो नहीं है. Today the actors come and get down and go straight into the van. फिर वो असिस्टेंट आके बोलता है वो आ गए हैं, फिर सीन भेजते हैं, फिर उनके मैनेजर आके बोलते हैं ये डायलॉग का क्या करना है, तो मेरे जैसा डायरेक्टर तो बोलता है करना है. बस यही है. तो
ह्यूमन टच थोड़ा सा और दूर हो गया, इंटरैक्शन.
एक्चुअली आई थिंक इट्स मोर डिफिकल्ट फॉर देम बिकॉज दे हैव आइसोलेटेड देमसेल्व्स. हम तो फिर भी यूनिट हैं, हम तो फिर भी क्रू हैं, एक दूसरे के साथ बैठते हैं, खाते हैं. मतलब वैन तो मेरी भी है, लेकिन यू वोंट बिलीव आई यूज इट ओनली फॉर द टॉयलेट एंड टू प्रॉब्ली स्लीप फॉर एन आवर पोस्ट लंच. बट अदरवाइज आई इवन ईट ऑन द सेट. आई डोंट ईट इन द वैन, आई ईट विथ माई क्रू. अंदर बैठ के क्या करेगा आदमी यार. बट आई सपोज for heroines, I still understand. because it was very tough for them in those days. They had no place to go to the toilet. They used to, it was very troublesome. But heroes used to be part of the crew. When I was shooting with Amit ji for Etbar, he used to sit on the set. I would say, sir, you have 10-15 minutes. हाँ भैया मैं यहाँ बैठा हूँ, तुम्हें तकलीफ हो रही है? I said, नहीं sir, बिल्कुल नहीं. He would not go. He sit on the set.
I think you also get a vibe when you're on the set, not just about your character on what you're coming and doing, but overall on the interactions and everything. It just...
I mean, I have been fortunate enough to, work with the legends. Like I remember Pran Saab. I don't even remember the name of the film, but I was an assistant. And I went and told him, I said, sir, abhi we are doing the opposite angle. So you have an hour. नहीं वो कैसे एक्टिंग कर रहा है मुझे देखनी है, वरना उसकी टक्कर की मैं कैसे कर पाऊंगा.
Such a healthy thing to say. It's not about competition. It's such a healthy,
he said that how will I match the sur?
Wow.
He would sit there and watch all the performances so that when he came, he was on the right pitch. Didn't depend on the director to give him the sur.
कि हाँ सर थोड़ा ऊपर थोड़ा नीचे उसने ये किया, ये देखिए मॉनिटर कुछ नहीं. Wow.
That's the beauty of it.
Sets then and now, have they changed a lot? Sets, film sets, shooting sets.
Yeah, of course. Now they are opulent. Now a lot of money is spent. At that time, it wasn't something that was easily affordable, especially for the small producer.
Producers, the change then and now.
No change.
Equally passionate?
See, through time, there have been 15 to 20% producers who are passionate and 80% producers who are here for the money. And that won't change.
It's been then the same thing, and even now it's more or less the same thing. Audience do you see changing?
The audience is back to being massy.
Yes, thank God for that.
Yeah, and they're talking a language I used to understand, thankfully. Multiplex के ज़माने में बहुत मार खाया हम लोगों ने. Single screen directors they used to call us. यार multiplex film नहीं बना सकते ये लोग. Today I'm like figuratively smoking that cigar and saying, "Come back to me, baby."
Yeah, so true. Because now everyone's hunting कि यार मासी single screen वाली film कौन बनाएगा?
Exactly.
That's so amazing to hear, sir. Final parting notes to have this conversation. You have a film coming up, which is up for release. The scenario of releasing a film before, then, now, which I'm a part of professionally also, and how that happens. How do you see the overall way and the functioning of the film industry overall? I'm not saying anything in specific or particular, but just the overall thing of जो आपने पहले भी बोला, pattern बन जाता है तो बन जाता है. If something works, everybody wants to make that.
Yeah.
I've never seen you follow that. Like, you wanted to make horror, you made horror. You wanted to make an intense love story, you did that. You made, as I said, Ghulam or Awara Paagal Deewana or Deewane Hue Paagal. In fact, I remember Karishma Kapoor's comeback was Dangerous-ish. That was her comeback film. Haunted was the first film that was shot in 3D. To the very recent, the first film to be shot on a LED set, if I'm not wrong, if I put it very...
Virtual set.
Yeah, virtual set. How was that experience? I mean, how has that changed from you remembering the set where you used to be as a kid to shooting something which is almost like...
It's fascinating. I don't stop getting fascinated. And...
that's actually a place to be really blissful and blessed. Otherwise,
as of last week, I have joined hands with a VFX house.
Right.
And we are going to do some terrific out of the box work. A little early to talk about that. But to answer your question, the problem is the noise level. There's so much going on out there. So many reels, so many memes, so many YouTube videos, so much clutter. How do you break through this clutter and tell people your film is releasing? That is the problem we face now. Earlier, there were like a few music channels, gaane dal do, trailer theater mein dal do, hoarding dal do, ho gaya kaam.
और हर फ्राइडे इतनी रिलीजेस नहीं होती थी ना, मतलब
होती थी, लेकिन अब तो कुछ ज़्यादा ही है.
right. One either spends a lot of money and outshouts, which generally I always feel doesn't really help if your
Doesn't matter.
film, if your film and the content of your film, your marketing assets, which is your trailer.
See, I always believe that film marketing, though I'm not a marketer, but my personal belief is that film marketing is not about awareness. It's about intrigue.
True. Absolutely, I agree.
Just because I'm aware that a film is releasing doesn't mean I'll see it. I'll see it if it intrigues me. ये क्या पिक्चर है यार? I must get the audience to ask that question. And I think most of the time we are just working on awareness. अरे पता ही नहीं है फिल्म लग रही है, अरे पता ही नहीं, अरे भैया पता करके भी क्या करोगे? What's your whole point of marketing this? What are you going to hook the audience with? That's my belief on that.
Outstanding, sir. On that note, wishing you all the very best
Thank you, Varun.
for what all that you're doing, and you're doing it very well because you're doing it the way you want by your rules. So continue doing that and keep inspiring us as you always do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Was lovely talking to you, sir.
Thank
Genuinely.
you. Thank you so much.